Welcome, and thank you for joining LPG Talks Live. My name is Bridget Perino, and I'm with Innova, the remote tank monitoring partner and industry council member of the World LPG Association. It is my absolute pleasure today to host this first edition of LPG Talks Live in 2023. After an extraordinary set of sessions under the LPG Talks program in 2022, it's very exciting to open 2023 with this particular session, Being Well is Being Safe. Our registrations show that this is a very timely topic for the industry. So first, just let me remind you that this is a World LPG Association meeting and therefore governed by the World LPG Association statutes, specifically our antitrust guidelines, which prohibits the discussion of commercially sensitive information such as pricing, volumes, market share, etc. Now, thank you very much for signing up and registering and tuning in today. We hope you'll find this session pertinent and helpful, and above all, actionable. We all deserve to be safe and well. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce the Managing Director and CEO of the World LPG Association, James Rockall, for a quick welcome. Hello, James. Thank you.
Hi, Bridget. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you and Innova once again for all your support to these webinars dating back now for several years. And welcome everybody also who's joining the webinar for what is the first of our LPG Talks Live of 2023. You've heard us talk a lot about safety. Safety is one of the top priorities for the WLPGA. It's one of our 4 principal goals under the safety and business improvement. And it's an integral part, I would say, of everything that we do. Just as an example, every WLPGA meeting begins with a safety moment. The safety moment, I would encourage all of you to do the same thing. What it does is it's more than just walking the talk. It ensures that the first thing that we think about is safety. And I think that's a reflex that we have to have in all of our work. But safety is not just about preventing and the prevention of accidents. We recognize that we're living in very challenging times. We have had a pandemic, we have wars, plural, we have a cost of living crisis, we have dreadful natural disasters, and we have, all of us to some certain extent, have personal challenges, and all of this brings stress into our lives. And I would say that having a healthy lifestyle and our well-being has never been more important than it is today. You know, before the pandemic, 15% of adults of working age had mental health issues. Now that's before the pandemic. I don't have any data for after the pandemic, but I would not suggest that that's gone down. And if anything, it's gone the other way. According to the World Health Organization, about 12 billion working days are lost every year due to depression and anxiety and other mental health issues. That's a cost of $1 trillion per year in lost productivity. I think that's a reason in itself that we, as people working in business, need to take this seriously. Now, there are effective actions to prevent mental health risks at work, to protect, to promote mental health at work, and support workers with mental health conditions. And so the subject of today's webinar is being well is being safe. And the fact is that mental health is something that many people, for some reason, feel uncomfortable discussing, but not talking about it can also make it worse. So for the next hour, we are going to talk about it, and we want to share with you ways to stay safe and to stay well in our day-to-day lives. The next time you say to someone, "How are you?" listen, watch carefully to their response, and ask yourself, is there something more you should be saying or asking or doing? I encourage you to join in the panel discussions and also share your own thoughts, your own experiences. And I think if we can do that, we can make this a successful and effective webinar. And with that, I'll pass it back to you, Bridget, and I'll just say to you all, stay safe and stay well. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Right. Well, I'd like to actually ask the audience a couple of questions at this point. First of all, as we often do in these sessions, where are you dialing in from today? So we can just post the first poll, please. Use your webinar controls to put your vote out there. Whereabouts are you calling in from? It'll just be interesting for us to see where we all are from today. And also, while you're doing that, I just want to point out we have the Q&A facility. You'll see that across the menus at the bottom of your screen or at the top of your screen, however you've got it configured. If you do have a question for the panel, please put that into the question box during the webinar. We'll get to those in the open Q&A, and maybe if it's relevant to the particular conversation that's going on as well, we'll jump to it at that point. Okay, so we have about 80% of the people who have voted already, so let's share those results. All right, so we're there. Do we have the results up? Yeah. Okay, we have a lot of folks from Europe. That's interesting. Just over half of you are from Europe today. That's very interesting. A good showing from North America, but see folks from around the world. It's great to see getting up there. And of course, the Oceania folks are, they want to go to bed right now, and it's probably anyway. Okay, so let's stop that one. And there's one more question that I would like to actually. Did we share those results? Did folks see those results? Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Okay. The next question is actually about how the group is feeling today. You know, this session is being well, being safe. Being well is being safe. So we want to pose a question to get a sense of how we all as a group are feeling today. So if you take a moment here to take a look all the way down the list, there's good choices hiding at the bottom. I know the immediate ones are very tempting as well, but let's take a moment to see how we're doing on that. We've got 50% who've weighed in today. Let's go down there and see how that works out. And it's very interesting for our panel as well. Our experts may definitely want to make a note here and refer back to these as they talk through their own experiences and provide their expert advice today. Okay, well, we're at 80%, so let's end that poll and share those results. Okay, I'm loving the focused. We've got 30% of you, over 30% of you who are feeling very focused, optimistic, concerned, relaxed. Just a small percentage of you are feeling stressed. So hopefully you're taking the time today, focus here, enjoy, learn, and hopefully take home some actions that you can think about the programs that you might have at your organization that you could revisit. So thank you so much for that information. Now, the next thing that we have is an interesting video that was put together by a nonprofit company in Australia. David Tyler will probably mention this as who is our panel moderator today. We'll mention this later on in the event, but this is a little video that we found really relevant for today's session. So just take a couple minutes and watch this video about how to go about asking, are you all right, mate?
Alec and Jenny enjoy a good laugh at work, though Alec's noticed Jenny has been distant and distracted lately. His gut is telling him something's going on. We want Alec to trust his gut, reach out to Jenny and start a conversation. Alec's a bit worried he could say the wrong thing, but he can feel confident if he follows Are You OK's 4 conversation steps. Ask, are you okay? Alec should pick a comfortable, quiet place and the right time to ask Jenny how everything's going. He can mention his concern and the changes he's noticed. Alec should listen instead of trying to immediately fix Jenny's problems. Encourage action. Alec can help Jenny think of steps she can take to manage her situation, such as chatting to friends or family, a GP or other professional support, such as an employee assistance program. Alec should check in a few days later and let Jenny know he's been thinking of her and wants to know how she's been going. Jenny's not ready to chat to him, he can encourage her to open up to someone she trusts. If you're worried about a workmate, reach out and start a conversation using the 4 steps. Ask, listen, encourage action, and check in. Alec can make a difference, and so can you. Are you okay?
Ask, listen, encourage, and check in. What a great message. So I think that's a great way to kick this off today. I hope that that was helpful to everybody, or at least something to think about. Okay, so we have one other poll that I'd like to touch on now before we launch into the expert discussion. So we can bring up the third poll. Think about what your organization offers you, or offers the employees, in terms of wellness programs or wellness benefits. So if you can let us know, do you actually have any of those at your company, or are you not aware of them, or you just don't have them? So I think that's also helpful for our panel as we go into that discussion to get a level set there. So we'll just give that a second. Seems as though it's kind of an interesting balance actually on that one. And these could be things like the Employee Assistance Program, or also known as the AEP. Could be a community day where you kind of get together and do good in the world, aside from serving clean, safe energy sources all day. All right, so let's call that. We've got about 70. We've got about 65% of the folks who've responded to that. So let's show what those results are. Okay, so just 14% are not sure, and that's probably very, very common. But we've got almost half who say, 46% who say they don't have a wellness benefit or program, and 39% saying yes. So that's pretty interesting. Hopefully those folks who have the no's or the not sure's, and even the yeses, will hear all sorts of ideas and experiences today that they can reflect on with the sorts of programs that they have at their company. So you may be the person running people and culture. You may be someone who would like one of these programs installed. So I hope that you get a lot out of what we're going to talk about in the session today and can take that back to your company as well. So we can just stop sharing that. I'm delighted to work again with David Tyler, who is a director of the World LPG Association and our panel moderator. David has been hosting these LPG Talks live sessions for, I think, almost 3 years now, focusing on safety and also digitalization innovation. But David, this is a very interesting take on safety today, and it's very popular. We've had a lot of people sign up for this session and on the line today. So welcome, and thank you for putting this together and for being our moderator for the panel today.
No worries, Bridget, and thanks for that very kind introduction. And we have a small panel today. We have myself moderating 2 panelists, and let me first of all introduce Ayşe Abumur-Bilgin from IGAS in Turkey. Ayşe is the Assistant General Manager for Technical Affairs for IGAS, which is part of the Koç Group in Turkey and the market leader there for LPG. My other panelist today is Rob Holmes, who is in the same time zone as me at the moment. I'm in Western Australia, and so is Rob. Rob is somebody who I would describe as a professional advocate of people, keeping people well and safe. Welcome, Rob, and thanks for joining us. You spent the first part of your professional life running and selling several businesses of your own before spending about 14 years as the CEO of Enable, an organization with over 800 staff, which is focused on the well-being and safety of people. So we have a true professional on the panel with us tonight. Not from the LPG industry, which is an interesting comment, but I think, Rob, you're going to bring us some pearls of wisdom from your experience. So let me first of all turn to Ayşe, and let me first of all thank you again, Ayşe, for joining us. You're in Turkey, as I mentioned, and let me first of all say and acknowledge the terrible scenes we've been witnessing following the recent earthquake in your country and also in Syria. Tell me, what is the situation like in the affected areas, and how have you managed to look after the well-being and safety of your staff and their families during this period?
Hi, David. Many thanks for the nice introduction. Unfortunately, we are going through very tough days in Turkey. We lost so many lives, such a big population of almost around 13 million people have been affected by the very severe earthquakes in our southeast part of Turkey, as well as affecting Syria, as you stated. Unfortunately, the magnitude of the earthquakes have been very powerful, so gave damage to many buildings, and we have many injuries as well. But as IGAS, we know LPG is the product which is flexible, mobile, and can assist people in such difficult times because LPG can give energy at any time, anywhere, at any conditions. We have been always aware of this fact, and all our employees have the same philosophy, same understanding, and we see LPG as part of critical energy source of our country. That is why, I mean, on the day when we had the earthquake, already in the morning, most of our staff was in our facility. I think that's wonderful because people have gone through such a severe shock. Most of our employees' houses have been damaged, but they have prioritized the support LPG can provide for the society and have gone immediately to the terminal at the early morning hours. The first earthquake was at 4:18 a.m. in the morning. Our terminal manager arrived at the terminal at 4:35, and also the other staff, the engineers, operators and technicians immediately followed. And already on the first day, our terminal was operational. And we have also collected all the critical staff in the headquarters and started the management crisis in IGAS headquarters in Istanbul to support the people in the earthquake region. All the people either from technical divisions or logistics team or the sales department or the HR department, we were all working together in one single room to see how we can support our colleagues, the society, all the institutions that could need assistance. And immediately on the first day, we sent so many people to the earthquake region to support our colleagues, first of all, because we knew, I mean, mentally they have gone through such a severe shock. Although in IGAS, of course, we are very well prepared for such crisis because we know we handle hazardous product, and that requires good crisis management plans, a lot of emergency drills. We do a lot of inventories, fault trees, plans for emergencies, how we cope with them, and so forth. So mentally, our colleagues were ready, but nevertheless, to support them, we sent so many people, either from the management level or engineering level or technical or operators level. People from either Black Sea or Marmara region have immediately reached the earthquake region and supported our colleagues. And from the second day onwards, we sent all the things they might need. I mean, water, food, shelter, containers, tents, anything you can think of, because many people were homeless, including our employees. We supported many organizations, including governmental or non-governmental organizations, during the earthquake days. As IGAS, you know, we are the name of cylinder in Turkey. We are 62 years old company. We are a generic brand. We have always focused on quality and reliability. So it was also our mission and philosophy to support our colleagues and the whole community who have been affected by the severe catastrophe.
It's quite astonishing. And you were faced with not just the well-being of people, but the well-being of your assets, your plant. You mentioned you had terminals and filling plants in the affected area, and that must have compounded the problems that you had.
The largest terminal of iGas with the capacity and also the marine connections and so forth is in Dörtyol, Iskenderun, and that was the city which was most severely affected. But our facility has been always regularly controlled. We have routine checks. We have a lot of emission tests and so forth. So they were all in good order. That was the first good sign. Technically, we were sound and safe, but then we had to support the psychology of our people. As I said, on the first day, there were already 6-7 people reaching the earthquake place. And on the third day, me, our general manager, some of the other management members have gone to the earthquake region and visited all 3 facilities which were severely affected. We have talked to our people, listened to them, their necessities, how we could help them in terms of their families. And yesterday, I was again in Dörtyol, visiting the second time our facility. I have seen the faces with smiles. They believed in our company. They trusted in our company. They were so thankful. The families, the children, they were all thanking us with heartfelt feelings, and they were really appreciating the company's efforts to walk with them in such difficult times, to understand and empathize with their hard situation. And it was so nice, I mean, to talk to those small kids, to get the appreciation from them. It was a lovely feeling to see them smiling and hopefully overcoming the effects of the earthquake.
The iGas has an astonishing culture, because I remember a couple of years ago during the COVID pandemic, everybody was locked down, but your LPG delivery man were actually doing the shopping for your customers. They were delivering LPG and the week shopping, because the people were locked up. They couldn't go anywhere. They were under a lockdown condition.
David, the founder of our group, we are 97 years old holding company. We make up for 8% of Turkish economy GDP and 7% of the whole exports in Turkey as Koç Group. And iGas is one of the most important and eldest companies in our Koç Group. And our founder always believed and stated that if my country exists, I exist. So this is still the philosophy. I mean, of course, we adapt to modern life. We look at the younger profiles. We make surveys about their necessities, but our traditional values are still the main columns of our activities. So whenever there is a need for iGas or any other Koç Group company, we combine our sources. For instance, some of the people who were homeless needed better accommodation because 2 of our employees' wives gave birth on the 2nd and 7th day of the earthquake, and we needed better accommodation. And our sister company, which is having hotels all around Turkey, provided rooms for them, provided all kinds of things, I mean, they would need for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever time they needed for. So we are a big community. We are almost 100,000 people, and we support each other and we support the community. And this is the main philosophy for all employees.
It's fantastic to hear. I'm going to come back to you about this company culture, because it's something I'm sure that will be one of the lessons that we take away from this panel discussion. But let me bring Rob Holmes in now. And I've explained, Rob, your background. Thanks very much, Aisha, for that. Rob, could you pass on some of your experience for keeping people well, especially when they're faced with the challenge of working in a very demanding environment?
Look, thanks for the introduction, David, and giving me the opportunity to speak. As you said, whilst I have no experience working in the LPG environment, I do have experience of working with people in some really challenging roles and environments. So your LGB environments are managed and operated by people. So we have that element in common. Mm-hmm. So being well, being safe is important at any time, but it's critical during times of stress or uncertainty, such as the disasters. You know, Aisha's just been talking about the earthquakes, the pandemic, which we've all shared in, accidents, new systems in organisations, growth of organisations, especially if they're growing quickly, mergers, acquisitions, and the list just goes on. So healthy employees, both physically and mentally, is critical to having a safe working space. We know that people who are in a good place make better decisions. I'd like to look at psychological safety in the workplace, which is an integral part of the good workplace culture. But before getting into psychological safety, which is one of my favourite topics, I'd like to talk very briefly about workplace culture, but not at the whole of organisation level. We're going to look at it at a micro level, a team or a personal level. We'll call it the working climate. So, Jocelyn Davis described climate in her book, The Art of Quiet Influence, and she says that, or Jocelyn says, climate is people's perceptions of the workplace or what it feels like to work in a place. So it's not the same as culture, which can be slow to change. Climate, it's malleable and it can change quickly. It can change very quickly. So climate has been shown to affect motivation, performance, financial results, and interestingly, it's actually affected most strongly by a manager's daily actions. So the people who are watching this, if you're a manager, this might be of interest to you. So whilst we generally talk about the company culture, company climate is the more powerful tool for improving results and promoting health and safety in the workplace. Why? Because it's more immediate. So just some tips for focusing on your working climate. So learn to know the weather. So start paying attention to how the climate, the atmosphere feels in your team meetings and try to put words to it, like it's open, it's jokey, it's positive, resigned, constructive, tense, relax. If you practice naming the climate, being able to name the climate helps to make it tangible to the group. So it's easier to do something about it. For example, I might say in a meeting, I notice the climate in our team feels energetic. Why do you think this is? So you start getting people to think about why particular feelings, why the atmosphere is feeling in a particular way. And you can actually address it there on the spot. You don't allow it to run over. So each person is responsible for creating and maintaining the working climate. People must have the courage to bring up issues, concerns, or conflicts rather than waiting for somebody else to fix them. So to guide this, I believe you need to establish clear team agreements. And I've found that having social contracts for a team or a group is really helpful. It's a written document that develops and describes how the team or group agrees to work together, how you'll provide feedback, how you solve problems, you address conflict, and generally work together. And all of the group members need to sign it off. If someone transgresses, then you draw their attention to the social contract that they agreed to and that they signed off on. So it takes it away from being a personal or something that you're actually having to raise. It doesn't feel as if it's coming from you. So moving on, it's now a time to talk about psychological safety, something that's gaining prominence of late. So Professor Amy Edmondson from the Harvard Business School. She initially coined the phrase psychological safety, and she describes it as a belief that one will not be punished or humiliated for speaking up with ideas, questions, concerns, or mistakes. So what we want is for people to feel empowered to share their perspective. Now, interesting, there was a study done a couple of years ago now, but I think it's probably still pretty relevant, that in the United States, there was 75% of workers felt that their ideas were not valued. Now, that's potentially an enormous lost opportunity. So, teams with strong psychological safety are less afraid to take smart risks. It's not just risks, it's smart risks, make mistakes, share their opinions within the group. They'll be candid with one another, and they'll be themselves. And we hear of this being authentic. It's also critical to receiving, every now and again, you have to have constructive criticism or feedback. You'll be in a better place to be able to accept that and acknowledge it, and then move on with whatever it is that you're having to maybe change in the way you go about things, etc. So how do you create psychological safety? So you've got to, and I'm talking here now about probably people in leadership roles, managers, supervisors. You have to be more available. You've got to admit your imperfections, and it's imperfections not only of yourself, but also sometimes, organisations, we're not perfect. Disclose your own mistakes and failures. You're going to encourage your team members to share errors and failures. In addition to those successes, we often go to successes, seldom it's that comfortable in sharing our errors or failures. Encourage people to ask for help, clarification and feedback. And that's that thing around you saw that video, the Are You OK program, and there's some great posters and things to guide you in that. Show that reporting of errors is not the same thing as poor performance. There is a difference. You're going to welcome curiosity and inclusive decision-making. You'll encourage questions, and you're going to promote transparency, and you'll absolutely avoid blame. That blame word, you absolutely want to remove that. So what are the benefits? You get a healthier employee. And as I said before, we know that employees who are feeling good about themselves make better and safer decisions. Importantly, people are more likely to ask for help, and they'll learn from mistakes. They're more inclined towards asking questions, suggesting ideas. They feel respected and valued. They feel accepted for who they are and the unique strengths that they bring, and therefore assist you with diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts that you may be employing in your organisation. And overall, you get a higher level of employee engagement, commitment, and improved productivity. So Google did a research project they called Aristotle, and you may well have heard of it, but they found that the top indicator of performance was psychological safety. So it really does have value. All of this improves your workplace culture, and of course that working climate that I talked about, and results in staff being well and therefore being safe. So when you have it, you'll see mistakes as opportunities to learn and not threats to your career. You'll be willing to take risks and fail, and you won't be. Sometimes we're unwilling to rock the boat. You'll be inclined to speak your mind in meetings instead of keeping those ideas to yourself. You'll certainly be openly sharing your struggles and not just touting those strengths. You'll trust in your teammates and supervisors and not fear them. You'll be able to stick your neck out and not fear it being chopped off. So in summary, there are 5 important actions to take to address psychological safety. So you're going to make it an explicit priority. You'll provide opportunities and support for everyone to speak up. You'll establish norms for how failure is handled. You're going to create space for new ideas, even wild, crazy ones. And you'll embrace productive conflict. Now, I'm just going to finish, almost finishing, with a kind of like you've had a few short surveys, but this is one, just think in your head now. You're going to think about a group or a team that maybe you're a part of. So I've got 7 questions. Now, these questions you might actually take and use yourself in the teams that you work in. So first off, if you make a mistake in your team, will it be held against you? Are the members of your team able to bring up problems and tough issues? Do people on your team sometimes reject others for being different? Is it safe to take a risk on your team? Is it difficult to ask other members of your team for help? Would anyone on your team deliberately act in a way that undermines efforts? That's a toughie. Working with members of your team, are unique skills and talents valued and utilised? Now, that's just a very brief introduction, and I hope you found something there of interest to you. So thanks, David.
Rob, thanks ever so much for that. I've been scribbling all sorts of things down here. And Bridget, I think what we ought to do, this whole webinar is recorded. I've heard so much there that I think we should pass on in a more structured way, and so that people can digest it carefully. And maybe what we can do is, I don't know whether we can pull up a sort of 3-page aid memoir from what Rob's been talking about. I love the social contract. I think it's a really good idea, and this company climate that you talk about. So yeah, look, thanks ever so much, Rob, for that. There's probably too much information in that very short summary, and it's very hard to summarize it in such a short time. But let's try and do that. Let's try and encapsulate what you've said with some bullet points and get back to everybody with that as a bit of an aid memoir. So thank you. Let's turn back now to Aisha, because you mentioned, Aisha, that the Koch Group employ, what did you say, 100,000 people, which is an awful lot of people to look after and be careful to make sure that they're all okay. And I think you said to me last week that the CEO of the Koch Group actually visited the earthquake scene, which is a tremendous display of leadership from the top. But you also mentioned surveys, and this is what I want to talk about in the context of the culture. Surveys that have been carried out for many years, and you do this on a regular basis. You're touching base with your employees to see, as the video said, are you okay? And I know you go a lot deeper than that. You don't just stop at "Are you okay?" So can you tell us a little bit about the surveys that the Koch Group conduct on a regular basis and have been doing for over 20 years?
Yeah, we are, as I said, such a big community. We have to take good care of our employees. We have always centered our human resource as the locomotive of our group, because we know each journey starts with the individuals and the harmony of the individuals within each other, and the team spirit and their trust in their companies bring good business results. Or in case we lack these, then we have really poor performance at the end of the day. So it's the circle, and we need to keep this circle running in a positive way, and being aware of this since from the start. As Koch Group, we have always focused on human resources as the most important asset, and probably for more than 20 years we are measuring not only employee satisfaction, but also their engagement. For the satisfaction, maybe we look at the wages, we look at the physical conditions, we look at the meals we provide for them, we look at the career opportunities. But for the engagement, there is much deeper levels. And during the engagement, we see if they respect each other, if they share the same values, if they have a friendly working atmosphere, if they can openly talk about their ideas without being questioned. I mean, Rob mentioned a lot of important parameters which are principles in our group, and we really value all those items Rob mentioned, and this is the company culture Koç has provided for the employees for almost a century now. And this is why, for instance, a new graduate, when they finish their universities, wish to work for Koç Group, because they know they can put their passion, they can put their hard work, they can put their dreams for what could be useful for them, for their environment, for the country, and even for, now we are a global player, for the whole world. I mean, we know this will be the environment for us. And during the surveys, we look at all these areas. I mean, and each year we look at the differences, we compare each other with other Koç Group companies. If there are some weak areas, we bring together some teams to investigate further, objective teams, sometimes not the function members, but different members, so that they could have more objective analysis about the problems. And we always go for a journey to improve the satisfaction and engagement and the trust the employees put in the company, because we need their passion and fruitful harmony to bring it well and safe tomorrows for all our future generations.
Thanks, Aisha.
And also during the pandemic, we had additional surveys to measure the feelings of our employees. We were asking regularly how they were feeling, if they had worries, if they are going physically to the offices, did they have all the equipments they required, the protection equipment, and so forth. So according to the situation, we also, during the earthquake, we had surveys according to the earthquake, if they had injuries, if they lost their houses, and so forth. So it's not only yearly engagement survey, but whatever we are going through, we make a case-by-case analysis, pull away assessments, understand the initiatives they need, and bring together all the insights we collect from our employees, and then go for improvement areas.
And Aisha, can you just give us an example, if the reaction to those questions, to those surveys was the person was not feeling well, was feeling depressed, what sort of response would you give in that situation?
Well, I mean, we have a few branches under Koç Group. For instance, we belong to the energy group as IGAS, automotive group, finance, white products, and so forth. We have main business lines. I mean, from the president level to the CEO or head of HR, I mean, if somebody is not feeling good, everybody knows about it, and we pay attention. I mean, we might have interviews, we go for some coffee drinks, we ask why, we provide coaching, we provide mentoring, we provide psychological online assistance. During the pandemic days, for instance, we were providing a lot of psychological support and we told our employees, I mean, if they wanted to have, for instance, more physical activity, then through the online programs, we had some sports activities. Then they were also trying to get their children educated because they were not going to school, and they were also at home. So to educate the children, to train and manage them was difficult. So we provided some online programs which children could easily utilize and get help for their homework, so that their parents were more relaxed and could focus more easily on their daily routines or physical exercise, workout programs. At some stage, our employees were complaining from too much online meetings. Then we collected again a team who looked at the problem areas and then told us we have to go for a manifest to promise as leaders to our team members that we won't hold meetings on lunch hours. We won't hold meetings during evening hours. And for instance, we have to leave sometimes off 3 hours. Each Wednesday afternoon, there won't be any online meeting. So if you want to go for some training programs, personal education program, or your children might need some assistance, you could have more easily programming availabilities. So all the feedback we get from the surveys turn into some kind of actions. And this is a live program. I mean, one day we might say black for one thing, but the other day it could go around the opposite way. And we follow up all the changes.
I think some of us would dearly love to get into a 9 till 5 routine. I know it's nearly 10 o'clock at night here, and I noticed, Bridget, on the survey we've got absolutely nobody from Asia and Oceania on this webinar, and it's always tempting to say, well, if we're going to cover the whole world, we should have it in two bites, so that we cover Asia earlier in the day. And unfortunately, we can't do that easily. It's very unfortunate because nearly half the world's LPG demand is in Asia Pacific. But we'll try and manage another way of tackling that in future. Rob, can I just bring you back in for a final word here, because I said earlier that what I'd like to do is digest what you said earlier. You made some really interesting comments about all sorts of issues relating to culture. Is there any one or two single messages you would like to leave with us today?
Look, thanks, David. Yeah, and it is quite a complex area. It's an incredibly important area. So I guess really I'll make more than just two. I think it's healthy people make better decisions. So that results in a safer workplace. Think about that working climate, because that's the level that actually has the greatest impact on your employees. I'd like people to consider the social contract idea, but maybe think of those 5 key actions to take away and to promote psychological safety. So it's and maybe even ask those 7 questions that I had. But look, if anyone's interested in a little bit more information or whatever, I guess just please feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to share information, tools and processes and things. It's quite a big area, and really, to try and condense it to a few minutes was a bit of a challenge, but hopefully there was something in it.
No, you did ever so well, and appreciate that. And it's an interesting one about you made a comment about not being afraid to make mistakes, and I think that's one of the things that we do, as James mentioned earlier, in our safety goal within the WLPGA. We are encouraging now the sharing of information and the sharing of incidents. In the past, organizations, people have been very reluctant to say that I've made a mistake. and it's caused some asset damage or whatever. So we are now encouraging a more open and sharing culture with safety incidents, and that's in a way reflected a little bit, I think, in what you were talking about earlier.
That's David, if I can interrupt, and that's where you come and you look at that blame bit, and so you really will lose enormous opportunities. Those times when something goes not quite right, those are absolutely learning opportunities. And, out of those, if people feel comfortable to share it and don't feel as if you're going to be, you won't be sacked or demoted or whatever, then they're going to share it. But others too will see that, and maybe they come up with better solutions to maybe not allow that particular incident or whatever it was to occur in the first place. So I think they're fantastic learning opportunities.
Yeah. I mean, I was talking the other day to somebody about what we call a just and fair safety culture, and they said, well, what does that actually mean? And it was not easy to describe in 30 seconds, but essentially, I think it's best described as if you're a tanker driver and you have an incident with your road tanker, and immediately people say, oh, well, the driver's to blame. But actually, he may not have had the right skill set. He may not have been trained properly. He might not be given the right vehicle. The vehicle may not have been maintained, and so on. So this sort of safe environment that he's operating in is compromised because of those issues that he maybe hasn't had. And to blame him is not fair if he's not being trained and so forth. So it's really, I think, in summary, it's opening up this transparency and trust of people is really what we're talking about here. And yeah, look, it's a tough subject to cover in 30, 40 minutes in a panel discussion, but hopefully we've at least opened a few doors that people can have a look down. And in terms of resources, I'm going to bring Bridget in just quickly. Bridget, we've got the little video that we saw with Alec. That's from the ruok.org.au website. And so if people want to look for a little bit more information about that is a really interesting resource. And RUOK are 4 letters. It's ruok.org.au. And there are more little videos in there to help. And if you want to dive into this subject in a bit more detail, I'd certainly recommend you have a look at their material. We have
David, we have that link just posted out.
Excellent, thanks, well. Bridget. And we have far too many suicides in Australia, and I think somebody told me the other day there's nearly 1 million suicides globally, and that is the ultimate price that you pay when you're not feeling well and your well-being is not 100%. So hopefully we can make some progress a little bit from our webinar. So Aisha, can I just ask you to quickly sum up also just 1 or 2 points from your experience and from what you're doing with the coach group and also with iGAS?
Yeah, thank you, David. I have been working for coach group for 25 years, and there are so many people like me working for this company for such long years, because we feel happy, we feel productive, we trust each other, and we can unite our energy for same goals. And I think this is essential to share the same purpose, to have a meaning for your life. Because as you said, I mean, so many people feel just unhappy, but sometimes even cannot understand why they are unhappy. I mean, they have a blurred mind, and results and inputs and outputs are just commingling with each other, and they cannot differentiate why they are happy or unhappy. But in our company, we provide all the elements for personal development, coaching, mentoring, to talk to each other, to boost dialogue between each other, have regular check-ins with managers and employees, to put questions about their satisfactions, so that we can put mirrors for each person and open the way for their individual development, which could lead the way for social, corporate developments as well. I mean, this has been essential for me. I have seen yesterday children, people who were happy with the containers, with the food, with the books and small toys we have provided for them. They were smiling, they were so thankful and so happy. And you talk about people in Australia who have probably much higher comfort zone, but still committing suicide. So there's a problem. I mean, we have to look into ourselves when and why and how we are happy or unhappy. And to do that, we need to have clear mind. And to have the clear mind, really, we have to look after our well-being. We have seen people who have been able to get alive from the buildings who have collapsed. Probably, I mean, their bodies, their minds, their reflexes were powerful enough. I mean, while 80 people passed away in a building, 5 were able to stay alive because, I mean, they were either find the right spot, they educated themselves before the catastrophe, where to hide, where to kneel down, and so forth. So these are all very small points, and I mean, we have to be really very cautious because climate crisis is here. I mean, temperatures are rising, forest fires are happening. It's not only earthquakes, but we have energy crisis, wars are happening. I mean, Ukraine and Russia. There are so many things that happening that we didn't expect, and we need to look at clearly into ourselves how we can keep our bodies psychologically and mentally, how we can keep ourselves in a good path, so that we can also do positive effects for our environments. Thank you.
Aisha, that circles really nicely back to James's introduction. And I'd like to just bring this to a halt and thank James, Rob, and yourself for a really interesting discussion. I really think that there's things there that we need to sit and ponder over, Bridget, and we'll find a way of summarizing these pieces of advice. So I'll pass it back to you now, Bridget, for you to draw the webinar to a close. And I think you have a little bit of information for us as well.
Oh, we have a little teaser video as well, but thank you. And we will pull together a follow-on resource that we can send out to the audience. And if you do still have questions, drop them into the Q&A box, and we will make sure that we get back to you on that. We can tell who submits a question as well. Okay, so what I would like to do here is really just thank everyone for such a wonderful session today. Thank you, James, David, Aisha, and Rob. Deeply moving session, and so timely, so relevant, and I think so needed. So I'm sure our audience today and anyone who chances upon the recording will be inspired and reflect on their own situation and the programs that they have or they lack or that need to be revisited. So our sincere thanks to Aisha Begin for sharing the iGas experience and showing us the importance of preparation and practice and having a strong company culture and mutual trust, and to Rob from Chelmsford Consulting for your very actionable insight and focusing us all on what's so very important, the people, trust, and the decisions that we make. Now, let's talk very quickly about LPG Week 2023. Following an amazing event in incredible India, I believe I speak for all of the industry, actually, when I say we're all looking forward to convening once again for a week of networking, the latest innovations in LPG, and that special sense of community, of being involved, of being a part of the future of our industry, whether you attend in person or virtually. So here's a sneak peek of what you can expect of LPG Week 2023. I must thank all of our LPG Week sponsors, and please do visit lpgweek.com and make your way to Rome next year. In person, amazing. But keep in mind, the event is also affordably virtual and global. So this wraps up our session today. I want to thank you all for being with us and your interest in this edition of the LPG Talks Live, and of course, in being well and being safe. A very special thank you to James, David, Aisha, and Rob for being with us today. And in case you want to share this session with your colleagues, I'm happy to inform you that the session was recorded and it's available. Will be sent out to you in an email probably tomorrow once we put our poll results right in there as well for you. But please, upon exit, do take a moment to answer our very quick exit survey when you leave. Your feedback helps us deliver an array of pertinent, timely content. So thank you, and looking forward to seeing you all at the next LPG Talks Live episode. Stay tuned for more information on that one. Thank you and goodbye.